You call it laziness. You blame yourself for not getting up, for scrolling instead of working, for choosing comfort over effort. But what if laziness isn't weakness? What if it's protection? This is the story of a young man who discovered what his laziness was really hiding. His name was Karan, 24 years old, living in a small apartment, working a job he didn't care about. Every morning the alarm rang. Every morning he hit snooze. He had dreams once, big ones. He wanted to start his own business, wanted to create something meaningful, wanted to prove he was more than average. But every time he sat down to begin, nothing happened. He opened his laptop, stared at the blank screen, then closed it. He told himself he was lazy. Everyone else seemed to have energy, focus, drive. But him? He felt stuck, heavy, like his body refused to move forward. And the worst part? He hated himself for it. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. His friends moved ahead, got promotions, started projects, traveled. Karan stayed in the same place. One evening, his father called. "So what are you working on these days?" Karan froze. "Just the usual, job, nothing special." Silence. His father didn't say anything, but Karan felt it, the disappointment. That night, he sat alone in his room. He tried to work, tried to push himself, but his hands wouldn't move. His mind screamed at him, "You're wasting your life, you're a failure, you'll never be anything." And then he stopped trying. He lay down, scrolled through his phone, watched videos, numbed himself, because it was easier than facing the truth. A few days later, Karan met an old professor at a cafe. Professor Mehra, the one teacher who always believed in him. They talked, small talk at first. Then the professor asked, "What are you building these days?" Karan looked down. "Nothing. I don't know. I just can't seem to start." The professor nodded slowly. Then he said something Karan didn't expect. "You're not lazy, Arjun. You're terrified." Karan frowned. Terrified of what? The professor leaned forward. Of finding out that you're not who you think you are. Silence. You've spent your whole life believing you're special, talented, destined for something big. And as long as you don't try, that belief stays safe. But the moment you actually start, the moment you put in real effort and fail, that illusion dies. Karan's chest tightened. So you choose laziness, because laziness protects your identity. It lets you say, "I could have been great if only I tried." The professor stood up. "But here's the truth, Arjun. Greatness isn't something you are. It's something you build, and you can't build it while hiding." That conversation shattered something inside Karan. He went home, sat in silence, and for the first time, he asked himself the real question. Who am I without the potential, without the dreams he never chased, without the excuses, without the comfort of believing he could have been great? Who was he right now? The answer was painful. He was ordinary, average, someone who talked big but did nothing. And not hurt, but something else happened too. Acceptance. He stopped protecting the image. He stopped defending his laziness. He stopped waiting to feel ready. The next morning, he didn't wait for motivation. He sat down, opened his laptop, and started. Not because he felt inspired, but because he was done hiding. Here's what Karan learned. Laziness isn't always about lack of energy. Sometimes it's fear disguised as comfort. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discovering you're not as special as you thought. So you protect yourself. You stay safe in your potential, in your what ifs, in your some days. But potential means nothing without action. And action requires you to let go of who you think you are and become who you're willing to build. You won't feel ready. You won't feel confident. You'll feel ordinary, uncertain, afraid. But that's when real growth begins. Not when you're special, but when you're brave enough to be average and work anyway. Karan didn't become successful overnight. He stumbled, failed, doubted himself, but he kept going. Not because he was great, but because he stopped needing to be. And slowly, he built something real. Not the life he imagined, but the life he earned. So if you've been calling yourself lazy, ask yourself, what am I really protecting? And then, let it go. If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that help you see yourself clearly.